Thanks for checking out Convincing Proof. What I wanted to do here is talk about a figure from the 1900s by the name of Ayn Rand. I've heard her name pronounced differently, but most of the time that's how I hear it pronounced, is Ayn Rand. But it's spelled A-Y-N, first name, last name, Rand, R-A-N-D. And the reason I wanted to talk about her is I have a debate coming up at the University of Texas at Austin on April 17th, 2024. Looking forward to the debate, and the debate is going to be about objective morality. So an atheist philosopher, who's actually an Ayn Rand scholar, is arguing that there can be objective moral truth even though there is no God. And I'll be arguing that no, God is the best explanation for objective moral truth. But through the process of getting ready for the debate, since he's presenting mostly Ayn Rand's theory, Ayn Rand's thinking, it's caused me to delve into her material and the books that she's written. And I wanted to make you guys familiar with her work. And if nothing else, it might help you appreciate or understand the debate if you tune in for that coming up. But Ayn Rand was a very interesting figure in the 1900s. She considered herself a philosopher. A lot of professional academic philosophers weren't that impressed with her or her ideas, so a lot of philosophers didn't really appreciate her work as much. But that isn't to say anything, because they thought similarly of my hero, Francis Schaeffer. He wasn't very well received or respected among professional academic philosophers. So that isn't to say anything good or bad about Ayn Rand's work. Obviously, there's a lot I disagree with about it, but she did write a lot, and she wrote some fictional novels. That's probably what she's most well known for, are her fictional novels. You might even be familiar with Atlas Shrugged. That's her most famous work. It's been made into a movie at least once, if not multiple times. But she did a lot of her writing in more the middle of the 1900s. But I think Atlas Shrugged was most recently made into a movie maybe in 2012. You can verify and correct me in the comments when it was made into a movie. But recently, not too long ago, within the last 20 years, it was made into a movie again. So a very big novel, fictional novel, Atlas Shrugged. She's very well known for that. But she also did write a lot of book on ethics, her philosophical ideas, her political ideas. And she's had quite a large following, especially among conservative people, which is interesting because she was a very outspoken atheist. So why is it that so many conservatives tend to like or appreciate Ayn Rand and her thoughts or her ideas? Well, one of the reasons why she hits home with conservatives, for example, like Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA, a lot of them are large fans of Ayn Rand, because she came out of the USSR. She grew up within the Soviet Union, that communist regime, and saw the horrors of it. And so she eventually moved and got to live in the United States, and was a very strong proponent of capitalism and freedom and property rights and individual rights, liberty, so on and so forth, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. And so she was a very strong proponent of capitalism, the free market system, and democracy, of course, especially individual rights. So you can see why she's going to find favor with a lot of conservatives who are also strong proponents of capitalism and a free market system. So you can compare and contrast these different political systems as follows. Sometimes we think, or sometimes you've heard it described that there's the right and the left. And what's interesting about that is if you go far enough right or far enough left, you'll eventually reach the same point. In other words, if you go all the way right, you'll run into fascism, and if you go all the way left, you'll run into communism. But really, fascism and communism are almost the same thing, if not this very same thing. And the reason why they're so similar, I mean, even the Nazi fascist system, part of the name was the National Socialist system. That's where we get the term Nazism from. They had the term socialism in their very name because it was a socialist mindset, just like communism is a socialist mindset. So my point is that if you go all the way around to the right, all the way around to the left, fascism and communism are basically both socialism. And what I mean by that is that they're ways of organizing society, putting the group first. They're prioritizing the group. That's why they're socialism, social. Social is a group, right? And so with the extreme right, fascism, the group that they're prioritizing is maybe a race, maybe a nation, right? In Germany, German Nazism, right? It was either a certain race or Germany itself. That was the group. That sort of social group was the priority. And individuals were subservient to the group. The group was prioritized. That was what was ultimate. That was the most important thing. And individuals should sacrifice for the group, whether that the group is a race or a nation. That's fascism. That's a type of socialism, because a social group is put at the top. Similarly with communism, right, it's the same thing. There's a group that's put at the top, and individuals are put below that, but it's a different group, right? It's a group, let's say within communism, it's going to be the working class. And you maybe start with those sort of ideals that the working class and individuals should are lower on the totem pole than the group itself. The group is what's idealized, the group is what's put first in terms of priorities, and then individuals are subservient to that. They're of lesser importance because it's all about the group, the working class. But as we saw in USSR and pretty much any country that has tried communism, it quickly turns into a dictatorship. It quickly turns into, putting the group above yourself. You should be sacrificing yourself for the group. Mother Russia, right? The group takes priority, and individuals don't have rights because it's all about the group. And so Ayn Rand, I think, was good in pointing this out. And so it's not, it might be incorrect to think of the political spectrum as left and right. It's probably better to think of it as group-oriented political systems and individual-oriented political systems. So group-oriented political systems is going to be fascism, socialism, communism, where the group takes priority. Whatever might be different group, different race, different nation, nationalism, the group takes priority. Contrast that with a political system or way of organizing society that highlights the individual. That puts the individual highest on the totem pole. So individual rights, property rights, individual rights of freedom, speech, religion, right to life, all those individual liberties. That's probably a better way to categorize different ways of organizing society or different political systems, is group-based political systems and individual-based political systems. And of course, Ayn Rand was a very big proponent of individual-based political systems, like the United States of America, where we highlight individual rights and we make the individual's freedoms and rights very high. And sometimes that's pushed back upon, because when you have a situation, right, where individuals have a lot of freedoms and rights, they can do things that the group doesn't like sometimes, right? And so there are things that go on in America where the group, right, society, thinks, oh, we should take away those rights, or we should take away those freedoms because they're using their freedoms poorly, or they're using their rights in a way that we dislike. But those like Ayn Rand and others argue that no, we need to be careful, because we could easily slip into either communism or fascism, where the individual rights are lessened to such a degree for the sake of the society as a whole, or the group, whatever group is that we're prioritizing, and all of a sudden our individual rights disappear. So, for example, the freedom of speech. We bemoan sometimes what people use their freedom of speech to say. But that's part of what having the freedom of speech gives us the right to do, is to say things that other people dislike. And I think that's something, these individual rights, that we should fight for and maintain, even if some people don't use those rights in a way that we, society, would prefer. So in that sense, there's things that I can appreciate from Ayn Rand, and her seeing the horrors of communism herself. I think she has a lot to say in this regard. So I just wanted to be clear, as I go into this debate, whenever I'm debating somebody, I don't want to throw them under the bridge, or under the bus, even though I'm debating, in a sense, her ideas, because the person I'm debating is an Ayn Rand scholar. There are aspects of it that I can appreciate and respect. But she's also very anti-religion and anti-Christianity. And so this is where I'm going to butt heads with her, right? This is what the debate is all about. And so in that regard, I'm going to be making the case that Christianity is true, and that Christianity is the best explanation for where objective morality comes from. A lot of what I've also done in preparing for the debate is to read her philosophical works. This is probably one of the most well-known ones. It's called Ayn Rand and the Virtue of Selfishness. And don't get thrown off by the title. She gets a bad reputation for people that just don't know her work very well, think that she's just promoting selfishness, that you should just go around being selfish, and that's what's morally good. But it's much more nuanced than that. And I'll let you read the book to go into the details, and she can explain for herself why she uses that term and what she means by that. But a lot of it has to do with, for example, her seeing with her own eyes the horror of communism in the Soviet Union, and seeing how this idea of capitalism is selfish, and the free market system and the freedoms that we have here in America, that's all selfish, and you shouldn't be selfish like that. You should be doing everything for the group, doing everything for Mother Russia, and you should be lowering all of your interests, lowering all of your desires and wants and needs for the sake of the group. And so she saw how people were forced into that thinking, and really forced into sacrificing their selves for the sake of the group, whatever that group is, and how wrong that is as a political system, and how inappropriate that is to be forced in that situation. So she's highlighting the individual freedoms in, let's say, America, where people do have the right to pursue their own happiness, like we've got written in our Declaration of Independence. You might say, well, that sounds evil and selfish. Why should we have the right to pursue our own happiness? Well, because we have individual rights. As a political system, as a way to organize society, we have certain freedoms to pursue life, happiness, pursue our own interests, own our own property. And none of that is evil in a selfish sense, right? And she uses the term selfishness to, I think, kind of a shock and awe in some regards, to maybe garner some attention to her thoughts and ideas. But it's not just simple selfishness. Everybody should just go around being an extreme, what's it called, hedonist. You know, that's not her position at all. It's much more complicated and nuanced than that. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce you real quick to Ayn Rand's ideas and kind of a preview, maybe a little bit background, at least, of the debate that I'm very much looking forward to. It's the University of Texas at Austin on April 17th. Thanks for tuning in.